It's another beautiful day in Gotham City. Ooh, ooh. Two of my favorite things, cheese and live streaming. Going to start out the podcast by saying, well, the live stream by saying, I hope everybody is going out and voting. If you happen to be in a country which is voting right now. And this bit of cheese is for everybody who is already a voter. Cheers. Yum yum. Well, hello everybody. Let me just pop out the chat here. Hello Jonathan. Hello Moonring. Chevalier and Blade. Hello. Kakas. Lysander. Ants and Technology. Hello. Kairos. Con Hamper. Hello. Hey Aiden. Hey Alex. Hello Christopher. Hello Music and Stuff. Hey Faith. Hey Josh. Hey Shannon. Hey Adrenith. Hey Kiddo. Not a dog. Nice to see you. Hey Adam. Lord Scrambles. Ralph. Don. Everybody together. Howdy. Hey Sage. George. Keith. Hello. Nyar. It's not yet September. Today's cheese is a nice double cream brie. Gadzooks. Hey Michael. Nunya. Good morning. You can't go out to vote, you got sick. Ah, damn. Hope you get better soon. Can you get somebody to do it for you? It's Tuesday to vote in person. They don't have any advanced voting stations. Bonjour. Time to make a drink? Absolutely, Power Rider. Hello. Ho! Thanks, Gon. Last stream was 2-hour one, but I missed it, and I did say I'd donate if it was extended, but I managed to catch this one. Oh, good. Excellent. Thank you. Yep, this is a 2-hour stream. So we're here until I say otherwise. Still got a few days here in the USR. Well, I'm not normally a political stream, as you know. So I'll only say this. Whatever side you're on, go and vote. It's your right to do so. Nobody can stop you. Pretty sure you'd all know what side I would be voting on if I was an American and had any vested interest in the voting process, but I don't. It's not for me to decide, it's for you to decide. It's your sovereign right. It's your country. You decide. Just don't do it by rolling a dice. That's okay, dog. School is important. Today we are streaming not just D&D November, so I'm going to be talking about stuff other than Dungeons and Dragons today. Hey, Comic Nut. The Sletch Leatherface went nuts. Nice. Yeah, the extremes on both sides are pretty awful. Lord Scrambles, I would agree. One side is decidedly more awful. Oh, kick-ass! You're giving away the beans. Kudos on the Rothe video. Common beasts are often overlooked part of any setting. Yeah, so if you are a Patreon subscriber or a Subscribestar subscriber or a member of the channel, you would have gotten a video last night on the Rothe. That will not be released for a whole month for everybody else, because I'm going to be talking about other stuff. I'm also going to be talking about D&D stuff in November. It's just not just D&D stuff in November. It's not nothing but non-D&D stuff in November. So rest assured, there's still going to be D&D content. I've got a very important video which I'm going to be talking about what was discussed in a 3-hour-long live stream by Ed Greenwood and Eric Boyd and other luminaries in the Forgotten Realms field, who have just started live streaming and Zoom chatting together. And they answer, it was just packed with information about the Forgotten Realms that these guys talk about on a regular basis, but like Wizards of the Coast is not giving us what these guys are talking about. So it's just so refreshing. It was like sitting down at a watering hole and taking a drink after walking across the dry Serengeti of no lore from Wizards of the Coast for months and months, to finally be like listening to these guys talking about D&D stuff, like real lore. Like, it was fantastic. They were talking about the attitude and the politics between the gods, the way the pantheons work, the way they see the gods working. They were talking about events in the past of Faerun, all about the orc hordes and what orcs live on up in the far north, and the actions of different political groups and things. And oh, it was fantastic. And you get to ask them questions, and they're going to be doing it on a regular basis. So that was just it was a very good end to a trying month. Yeah, Ed is extremely good about covering the minutiae of everyday life in the Forgotten Realms. Eric he's my kind of sage, right? So he goes into the details of what happened in the past, and he's got lists of information, like all the different orc hordes, some of which have never been named, and he's rattling off dates and stuff off a list that he's got. So, you know, they've never published a source book on the hordes of the orcs in the far north. Like, we don't know where they are and things, and it's kind of a mystery. But they confirm that a lot of the orc hordes are established in former dwarven holds that are in there. So it's like there's also important dragon stuff going on, which is preventing the orc hordes from currently rampaging across the top of Faerun, because they're well overdue. So yeah. Yeah, other tabletop RPGs. So not just D&D means that I'm not going to be covering Pathfinder, because Pathfinder is Dungeons and Dragons. So I've got Pathfinder, and I can talk about Pathfinder, and I probably will at some point. I'm also going to be talking about Dragonlance stuff, because I had a good interest from people watching that video. So that's entirely it. If I do a video on something and it only gets like 5,000 views, I'm unlikely to make more videos about that. It's got to get like 10,000 views or more over like a week or so. Otherwise, it doesn't matter how many times you tell me that you want it in the comments, it's just not viable for me to do it. Unless I really want to. But if for Dungeons and Dragons and Dragonlance, it requires me learning a lot of stuff and reading a lot of stuff about Dragonlance that I didn't previously know, which is hard work. And so there's got to be like an incentive for me to do that. So it's looking good. I'm not going to be talking about Osric and OSR games, because they're also Dungeons and Dragons. But I am going to be talking about Traveller, both the classic Traveller and the modern Mongoose version of Traveller, which I think is a worthy successor. I'm going to be talking about Warhammer 40k, including some of my favourite, the tabletop RPG books for Warhammer 40k. Deathwatch is fantastic. I'm going to be talking about Star Wars, perhaps. Probably the classic version of Star Wars would be my favourite, but this one is really good for like the sumptuous artwork and the fact that it's a licensed product, so I can use all of the details and stuff from the movie franchise. I'm going to be talking about GURPS and the Discworld role-playing game. I'm also going to be talking about, and the first one up on my list, of course, as I hinted in the community chat, will be Palladium Books. This is their typical softbound cover books, and this is one of their special edition hardbound covers of my favourite game, Heroes Unlimited. Next to Dungeons and Dragons, Heroes Unlimited would be my favourite RPG ever, which I've been playing for 30 odd years. Hey, thanks, Donald. Here's some incentive. Thank you. Yeah, that's exactly right. Money works with me. I make no bones about this being a job. Call of Cthulhu. Yep. I don't actually have. I've got some Call of Cthulhu books that I got at the last convention that I went to. And I have been a player of Call of Cthulhu, but I haven't actually run any Call of Cthulhu games. But of course, I know the lore and I know the feel of the game, and I'm looking forward to talking about Call of Cthulhu as well. Mutants and Masterminds I do have, and I have played Mutants and Masterminds, but it's a different kettle of fish to Palladium, and Palladium I know like the back of my hand. Mutants and Masterminds is a little bit more sort of... I actually find it a slightly more difficult game conceptually for traditional D&D players to get into because of, Oh yeah, I'm going to be talking extensively about Palladium this month. Yeah. Not Legends of the Five Rings. I don't really know anything about Legends of the Five Rings. I know of it, but I've never played it and I've never opened a book of it. I've heard about it from players. Vampire the Masquerade is also a game that I've never played, but I'm quite willing to talk about the game system and stuff in a sort of a broad general view, but I'll be learning about it at the same time that I'm making videos about it, so it's not something that I have personal experience of. But I have played Warhammer, and I do know all about it. Hey, I've made a video about Warhammer 40k Orcs. Yeah, this is a business. Money is the best motivator. That's the... Aberrant, I've heard of, yep. You also didn't... you see, I don't have Shadowrun in there either. I've never played Shadowrun. I've picked up one of the books once and had a look at it and I was like, ooh, that's a bit chaotic. Like the layout and stuff. It's very sort of pulp fiction-y. Of course, Beyond the Supernatural. I just said not Pathfinder Yubtub. Delta Green is very good, but it's something I haven't got my hands on yet. I'm really looking forward to having a look at it. Also, Cthulhu Tech, a sort of a modern take on Cthulhu, also very interesting. Delta Green appeals to me the same way that Beyond the Supernatural does. And you will understand that as soon as I start talking about Beyond the Supernatural in combination with Ninjas and Super Spies and Heroes Unlimited and stuff like that. Hey Sinzu. Traveller, yes. I don't know how many people over the years have told me that I should be playing Shadowrun and Cyberpunk because of the work that I did on cybernetics and stuff in Palladium. Yeah, Toon was fun. I could talk about Toon. Did I, Jonathan? Sorry. Oh, there it is. I used your Yarquib homebrew in my campaign this past week. The players loved it, but they really salty they lost all their stuff. Well, that's not my fault. Yeah, there will be more Dragonlance. Robert, Sean Connery. Okay, Sean Connery was 90 years old. He's had a illustrious career in film. We all love him for Bond. He really sort of established James Bond. And a lot of other fantastic movies. Highlander, let's see, what else? The Untouchables, The Presidio, Hunt for Red October, Dragonheart. He's been an icon of the film industry for my entire life. Yeah, born in the 1930s, a product of his time, a prodigal son of Scotland, knighted by the Queen. So yeah, lots of accomplishments, and I will miss him. Recon, yes, wow, yep. Recon's cool. Recon is not part of, like, as far as I know, Recon is not part of the original Megaverse of D&D rules, of Palladium rules, but they updated it later on, maybe. But Recon was never like part of the Megaverse. It's a cool game if you want to play like a beer and pretzels sort of game. Hey Spike. Yeah, I saw the Thirsty Sword Lesbians. That's an interesting take on it. Like, as far as I know, I've heard somebody say that it's got quite a different mechanic for like the game where the characters' emotions and stuff determine things. So it's very, very modern take on role playing, which I'm quite interested in having a look at. It's on Kickstarter at the moment. Thirsty Sword Lesbians. Hey Robert. Recently learned about a passing of Sean Connery, and I want to make an NPC out of his James Bond to honour him. How should I start with it? What, for Dungeons and Dragons? Well, that would be probably one of the like rogue classes, I guess. Rogue / paladin. Hey Andrenith, thank you for the mead. Nice to catch you live. Usually I'm with my unruly 2-year-old, so I never get to see the live stream. My little one is banging away on the keyboard at the moment. Hello, little person. Morgan McDonald, thank you. A Hound Archon moonlighting as a dog boy. Yeah. The Aliens and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm going to be talking about everything about Palladium. Everything. I've been with Palladium since Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was first released. I've been a fan of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles since they were a graphic novel. Since they were only available in comic books. So the true Turtles. Oh, I suppose that needs to be addressed. Yeah, Amos. Hang on. I'll just click that. You say Sean Connery was also a woman beater and bragged about it. Yeah, so like I said, he was a product of the 1930s, right? So back in the 1950s or whatever, it was like if a woman was hysterical, she gets a slap and it'll calm her down or whatever. That's what he was talking about. It was a Diane Sawyer interview or something like that, where he was saying like sometimes women will be deliberately hysterical to the point where like they get hit by a male, and it's just the fucked up way that people used to interact in the 1940s and 1950s. And I imagine in his later life, in his 90s, he wasn't beating up his wife anymore. Her being a feisty, I think she was South American or something like that, but she would have kicked his ass. So yeah, wrong, but a product of his time. And I like to think that he probably saw the error of that interview afterwards, because it certainly bit him in the ass. Yeah, of course they're going to talk about it on his death, and it's a real shame. But obviously, you know, it was a social issue, and he was on the wrong side of it. All right. Yeah, I like had a look at Steven Universe, and it just wasn't really my thing. Like, I don't really like that animation style, for instance, and unfortunately, that plays a factor in the artwork that I enjoy. Does anyone play Rifts anymore, Chris? Yes, they absolutely do. I could run a game of Rifts right now without books. That's how much I like Rifts. Hey, William, what's going on? Did I miss something? Tales from the Loop is a modern one that I haven't got my hands on yet. I mean, there's a lot of role-playing games, and I can't cover all of them because I have to concentrate quite a lot on D&D. Hero turtles, my friend. They were also ninja turtles, so they killed people. Hey, Mason. Hey, Rational Redneck, thank you. Weekly donation time, Tressum Video Pester, and an actual question. If wizards can cast without the weave, then how does an anti-magic field work? It basically just shuts down, it locks in reality, or it shuts down mental powers, or it disrupts mental influence over the flow of magic. So essentially it shuts off the Akashic. It's, yeah. The weave is a very Forgotten Realmsy thing, and other game systems don't necessarily have it. It's kind of implied in ways, like Athos certainly has no weave, and that is a case in point of what happens when you use that idea of magic being a flow of energy that is related to the natural world, and when wizards pull on it, they take it away from where it's supposed to be going. So it's like a flow of water, and when you draw on that water, you parch where that water would be going. But not all games look at magic that way. Some of them just look at magic as it's emanating from you and the cosmos, and it doesn't impact the world overly much. Like in Warhammer 40k, for instance, magic is the relationship between the material universe and the immaterium. So it's like the astral plane is where they're drawing the magic from, and ships travel through the outer planes in order to jump. Like that's their hyperspace. They just jump into an alternate universe and then back in again. So it's like Warhammer 40k is like Spelljammer gone, where the abyss took over the astral plane. Right? That's a good way of putting it, actually. If Therazone put the rod of evil, the shard of evil, in the astral plane like he was supposed to in the first place, he would have created a Warhammer 40k situation where anybody who travelled into the astral plane would essentially be walking into the warp. That's the abyss would have been in everyone's minds. So the worlds of Dungeons and Dragons would have been fighting a constant battle against people who were going crazy from their dreams, or worshipping foul gods that were pouring out of the abyss. So cultists would have been really, really bad. Do you know any New Zealand ghost stories? Not really. Need 19 minutes to write up a techno wizard? Well, only if you're doing it properly. The Tressum monster stat is in the Storm King's Thunder. Yeah. I mean, Tressums are a winged cat. They don't have any innate magical powers. Thanks, Morgan. What would a D&D dwarf's reaction on fighting an orc for the first time? Well, kind of like... so the orcs... When they're fighting a dwarf, is they're dealing with a lot of like racial injustice and hatred. Same thing with the orc, the dwarf versus the orc. It's like the kids that went marching into war in World War One, for instance. They're pumped up on patriotism and propaganda, right? And then they walk into the trenches of World War One, and it's living hell. Like, they're not really prepared for just how horrible battle really is in person until they're in it. And the dwarves quickly become hardened to that, and they look at it as just like work, right? Their sacred duty to wipe out the orc menace and stuff. But, you know, there may be an opportunity where the orc and the dwarf start talking. The other thing that dwarves really don't like about the orcs is the orcs are, especially in the north of Faerun, for instance. I can't say this about like other worlds, but they're ensconced in former dwarven strongholds in the far north. So when the dwarfs were forced to retreat from the ever-encroaching hordes of the orcs, because the orcs have got a much faster breeding rate, the orcs moved into the places that the dwarves formerly occupied and built. right? So that's how they're safe from predation on dragons and stuff like that in the far north. And they don't just live in caves, they live in the former homeland of the dwarves. And so the dwarves are like, you took what is ours. Like, you're squatting in our legacy. So there's that as well. Hey, Adrianath, best analogy ever. Thank you. The astral pain. Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah, that's exactly. Trajan, what RPG system would you recommend for running an Avatar: The Last Airbender campaign? Ooh, I don't know. I'd be inclined to say Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition is a really good just base system to use that, because there's a lot of magic use and martial arts and stuff like that in it. There are a lot of martial arts combat in it, so yeah. I would say it's probably going to get its own RPG at some point. Just wait around until some company picks up on it. If you want to run it yourself, though, just use your existing system that you have. The one that you know the most about. Sinzu, yeah, I saw the headline but did not read the article of a possible D&D TV series being in possible production. Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. Palladium is a subject of today, for sure. Basically, the subject of today is whatever you guys want to talk about. So if you are only interested in talking about Dungeons & Dragons, only ask me questions about Dungeons & Dragons. If you are interested in talking about other game systems and how much I know about them, and sway the influence of me talking about them during November, this is where you do it. Why do I keep forgetting about homebrew Baelnorn's facepalm? I don't know. If anything, a Tressum is even more stuck up than a regular cat because they can fly. Well, I mean, yeah. Ninny65, I've never played D&D, but I watched a few 5e campaigns and would really like to get into it. So this is a good point to like get in touch with people. Go into Discord servers and things like that. Like, go into my Discord server and you will find lots of people who are probably in your area or know of places in your area that you can go and get games. Also, Facebook is a good place to suss out who's playing games and things, and also just like go down to your local game store and see if there's a flyer for a game or something like that on the wall, or ask the proprietor of said hobby store if there's any games locally. Why would you choose Chi-Town on Rift's Earth as books are banned and reading is deeply frowned on? I prefer the New German Republic, or Dweomen. Northern Gun is pretty good as well. Northern Gun's okay. Manastic Imperium is also pretty cool. Triax, New German Republic, yeah. There's also Japan. What's the most famous Ixtadar Chittle in the Forgotten Realms? I don't know. Moondog? Moonring? Your guess is as good as mine. Yeah, no, I haven't really gotten into the Chaos Earth stuff because I veer towards the STC version of the Palladium Books, not the MDC versions of the Palladium Books. I play plenty of Rifts, sure, but I actually prefer to play the STC titles. The exception to that would be Phase World and Scrapers. I quite enjoy Phase World and that stuff. What do I think about the Unearthed Arcana Monk and Ranger? They're okay. It's a reading frenzy, it's true. How many got in here so far? 110. Exalted for Avatar, yeah, that is a good option. Oriental Adventures background. in the privacy of your own home, maybe. It's funny because Oriental Adventures, when it came out for Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, it was so popular. But it's totally not popular these days. And I saw a comment somewhere. Somebody was saying that the Shao people from Karatua are described as yellowish bronze, and like all the Asian people are like, what? And it's true. It's terrible. It was written by white people, so it's very clearly like culturally insensitive. Hey Frederick, a nice sunny day. Yeah, it is a nice sunny day over here as well, on the other side of the mountains. It's a sweaty, hot day outside in the Bay of Plenty. Drier, though, than I imagine Hamilton is at the moment, like humidity-wise. I will not miss Hamilton's humidity, that's for sure. Yeah, I was going to say Palladium Books Heroes Unlimited was perfect for a last Airbender campaign. Yeah, but it's a megaversal rule system, so you can apply it to anything. Anything. I mean, I would say Mystic China and like Ninjas and Super Spies and Mystic China would be fantastic for an Airbender the last like campaign. That would be my go-to. Even a little bit beyond the supernatural if you wanted to. If you wanted to have like psychic investigators, like Eddie Murphy and the Golden Child is perfect for like a modern person who gets inserted into the situation. So that's like beyond the supernatural, psychic investigator gets shoved into Mystic China. That's Golden Child. Throw in a little bit of like there's a demon in there as well. It's fantastic. That is a fantastic movie, by the way. If anybody's never watched The Golden Child with Eddie Murphy. Absolutely flooring, fantastic movie. Hey, Rational Reggie. So, what if my D&D wizard went to the Abyss and created a permanent portal to the Warp in 40k? Who winds up corrupting who? Ooh. Shit. That's a good question. I think what would happen is that the Abyss and the Warp would essentially just maul each other on a semi-permanent basis. That would become a nexus of demon and warp activity, like just raging out of control. And it may actually take the pressure off the rest of the D&D multiverse, when you think about it. And maybe the Chaos Gods would see it as an untenable portal and just shut it down. I mean, they don't fight just for the sake of fighting. And they wouldn't corrupt each other, they would just battle against each other. And the demons would be drawn into that conflict because they thrive on destruction. But I guess there wouldn't be enough destruction of the material world involved for them to they would sort of peter out again eventually. So I think they would just fight massively and then shut it down. Avatar would be everyone is an elemental monk. Yeah. Everyone's a Genasi. Masks, a new generation is a good superhero game to run. Yeah, it's okay. As far as I'm concerned, like Mutants and Masterminds and Heroes Unlimited is one of the better supers games because it's bounded, right? So you can get mega heroes, but you don't get like the level of Superman mega hero that nobody's flying around the world and making time go backwards. You can use super science and things like that to do it, but generally speaking, that's out of the hands of the player character heroes. Elfquest, yeah, of course I've heard of Elfquest. I haven't played it though. The Airbender is basically a Pazuzu. You going to do any info on gnomes and the tech that they make? Yeah, I can talk about that. There's some really good charts and tables for gnomes speak when they're talking about their tech. Exalted is not compatible with Avatar: The Last Airbender. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Okay. You have to explain why, William. Hey, Casper. Thank you. Do astral dragons and astral dreadnoughts ever fight each other, given that both live in the astral plane? Ooh, that's a good question. I would say, as then both native to the astral plane, they would avoid each other. Astral dragons are very stealthy, don't forget, and they keep their locations of their egg secret. The astral dreadnoughts are tasked with living around the colour pools. So that speaks to me that the astral dragons would not be located around the colour pools most of the time. Unless they've got a reason to be there. You want to talk about street sharks? Okay, Kirk. Yeah, I was always like the hero who got 5 or so minor powers instead of 1 or 2 major. Yeah. I quite like playing characters with a lot of minor powers. I like playing super soldiers with a couple of minor powers and those enhancements that they get, like the cybernetics and that sort of stuff. Physical perfection. And also, like, having an agency on your ass is really fun in the game as well. I also, I was very active in the Palladium forums, where I went under the nickname Zen for a long time. And what I did at one point was I created a list of all of the made-up powers that people were making. This table that I made called the sub-minor superpowers, which were great. They were sort of based on the Tick comic. And I came up with a table of the sub-minor superpowers that had lots of contributions from other people, but the majority of them were mine. And you had like super abilities like bubblegum manipulation, or the ability to summon a taxi wherever you were, or you always had like $5 on you, that sort of thing. It's just crazy. The ability to manipulate brick, something like that. When it comes to the 40k RPGs, are you drawn to any in particular? I can see you having a great time with Dark Heresy or Rogue Trader, but Deathwatch and Only War are also good. I haven't actually got my hands on Only War, and I really want to, because I'm a Gaunt's Ghosts fan, and I want to play like that, the life of a trooper sort of thing in the Imperial Guard. But yeah, I do like Rogue Trader and Dark Heresy. Those are the things that I sort of cut my teeth on with the Warhammer 40k tabletop RPG. Thanks, Joseph. There is actually a very good D&D 5e to Avatar conversion on the DM's Guild called Incarnate. Last of the Laces? For copyright reasons. Oh, okay, there you go. So go and look up Incarnate on the DM's Guild. Hey, Snatchgate, thank you. What do you think of the end of the Tolkien Collision War? I kind of phased out on the Federation of Magic and Chi-Town saga, because it was like buying products for a game system that I don't typically use much. Also, I did a lot of homebrew stuff, and we didn't really play around Chi-Town and stuff like that. Most of my games were set in the Manastic Imperium, and I did a lot of work on building the Manastic Imperium as a campaign setting, including an invasion of the Spyneck and Tuba aliens from TMNT as DBs, which was quite interesting. Isn't as uber powerful as Exalted? How most people are thinking that Dragon-blooded exalts in the same thing as Bender, but I extremely disagree. Oh, okay. Right, yeah. Well, there you go. Catch you later, Adrianeth. Spoon! Spoon! I am mighty! The reason why it's the mighty glue stick is actually influenced by the tick. That's why it's mighty. I am mighty. While the dragon-blooded exalts are the weakest of the exalted, they are superhuman because of their exaltation. Benders are not superhuman. I would argue that they are superhuman because they can do supernatural things, but that's okay. Overall, I would agree. Thanks, Jonathan. How does magic work in Call of Cthulhu? And how does insanity work? Does the campaign have to take place in the 1920s? Magic works in Call of Cthulhu through symbolism and spells and stuff like that, and you're trucking with arcane powers. It's kind of psychic. It's lots of remnants of things from the past, and it's like these symbols and things like that summon outer powers. So there's always like an intelligence behind it, and a lot of it is there's hidden corridors and there's geometries of the reality that humans are not aware of, or it's on the periphery of their understanding. And when they tap into that magic, they also tap into knowledge of the past and get a horrible realization of their minuscule bacteria-like status, even on their own planet. Insanity works basically like that. Like, the more you understand the way that reality really works in Call of Cthulhu, the more it disassociates you with reality around you, where you realize that humans are living a life where they're ignorant of their true place in the universe, and that it's at any point gibbering horrors from the outer worlds are going to arrive back on Earth and squish them like insects. Does the campaign have to take place in the 1920s? Certainly not. There's Call of Cthulhu set in all different eras. It's a lot of fun to play it in the 1920s, but you can even play like a medieval world, Call of Cthulhu if you want to, or during the Second World War if you want to play more of a Hellboy campaign, or you can play a modern era Call of Cthulhu, or you can play an advanced future tech Call of Cthulhu if you want to. Astral Dreadnoughts attack and hunt creatures passing into the astral sea, so a dreadnought would, I think, not fight an astral dragon. Well, astral dragons travel around the multiverse, so they're exactly what the astral dreadnoughts hate the most. Eaten by a dragon summons taxi. See you later, Kirk. Thanks for your comments. My suggestion for fantasy writing, Eddie, would be avoid writing about Dungeons and Dragons topics. If you start writing a fantasy novel, make it a quite unique fantasy novel. Don't make it just based on your D&D campaign, because it's a lot harder to get those published officially when you want to. Arthur's battle cry, not in the face. Hey, bro. Did I see the new episode of VisiPop's secondary show, Hell of a Boss? No, I have not. Thanks, Robert. Benders are way more compatible with D&D mechanics. Yeah, that's what I would think. Apologies for lack of super chat. I'm broke. That's okay. Don't worry about it. Have I narrated any content on Greyhawk yet, and will you be doing anything on that anytime soon? Yeah, I've talked about like Vecna, dude. I've talked about like Kaz, the Sword of Kaz and stuff. Yes, I've talked about artifacts from Greyhawk. Even Raxavort is a Greyhawk entity. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, like Greyhawk and Forgotten Realms are just locations. Like, I don't see a huge separation between the two, and neither should you, because the writers of Greyhawk and the Forgotten Realms crossed the streams literally by creating world portals between the two. So I can tell you exactly where to go if you want to travel over to Greyhawk or Abia, for instance. Oh! You used by Icon Caesar, Migo Roberto. I love that little picture. Little baby beholder. So yeah, I've got no problem talking about Greyhawk, for sure. I quite like delving into it. The problem with Greyhawk, of course, is that it's old IP. It's no longer being actively produced by anyone. Maybe in 2020 Cthulhu might actually end COVID. maybe COVID is just the precursor of an invasion by Cthulhu. Favorite Rifts powered armor design? Well, you can't look past the Glitter Boy, obviously. But I don't know, like, how practical is Glitter Boy armor really? It's like, being a cavalier in D&D, until you actually realize how useful a horse is in combat. It's like, so probably like Samus armor is pretty cool. But a lot of the New German Republic armor, like the Jaeger armor, for instance, is really good. I quite like that. And also, don't overlook like a Skullbot walker, like a skull walker. Like the Tri-Town power armor stuff is pretty good. Powered armor, I would say like Red Cyborg. Yeah, that would be my go-to. Have you heard of the mysterious moose of New Zealand? Yeah, unconfirmed. I don't think they exist, Stanchgate. Like, we would have heard about it for sure. We like telling tall stories. I mean, some people go to extraordinary lengths to prove that there's moose on the loose in South Island of New Zealand, but there's not. It's ridiculous. Jonathan Harris, you read Shadow of the Conqueror by Shadowversity? No, I have not. Gage, thank you. Hey AJ, what are some good Ravenloft Gothic horror books you could recommend? Also, will you be doing a member talky thing about making compelling NPCs? Yeah, for sure I will. I'll be pretty much straight after this. I'll be writing up and making another one of my podcasty talky things, and this month I'm going to start releasing those to people in the general public as well. So people are going to get to see what the members are talking about when they're talking about my podcasty things. So yes, compelling NPCs for sure. In fact, I was trying out some accents last night. Do I still want to do a video on Hellruhr? Absolutely. What does a Hellruhr accent sound like? Mysterious moose of New Zealand. Rodents of unusual size? I don't think they exist. Mold, yeah. What are my favourite cryptids, AJ? Well, you can't get past the Chupacabra. Loch Ness Monster, obviously. Like, the Loch Ness is compelling. It's a really big lake, like huge. It produces more fish than it should, biologically speaking, which is like scientifically it's fascinating, even without the Loch Ness Monster. Also, people have been very active in that loch, and there's some strange things that investigators have found. In fact, somebody did some underwater landscaping. Like why? Somebody was down there in a diving suit and wandered around with like a shovel and a wheelbarrow and like moved stuff around and made like a little monument thing in the bottom of the Loch Ness Lake. What? So yeah, it's fascinating. Could there be a dinosaur living in Loch Ness? Probably not. Thanks, amigo. Can't forget about the graboids. Yeah, they're also cool. One of the cryptids I think is most interesting at the moment in our modern world is the tall man phenomenon. And of course, if you're into ufology and alien lore and that sort of folklore, the tall whites would be the obvious link between those two cryptids. So, hello, tall whites. Like, I actually know, like, I may not be a believer in aliens on Earth, but I certainly am very studied on Zeta Reticuli and, like, grey aliens and tall whites and the Dogon tribe of Africa and the Easter Island carvings and stuff like that. So, like the pyramids and stuff, I find all that sort of stuff fascinating and read about it all the time. In the same way that, like, sometimes I'll delve into, like, flat earthers theories and stuff like that, because it's really good speculative fiction, right? So you read about that sort of stuff, and some of it is really compelling. Like, you know, some of the stats on the pyramid, it's just like, what? And the Dogon tribe of Africa they've got, like, some stuff there which is really hard to explain. Really hard to explain. Thanks, Josh. Oh, SCP, yeah, for sure. That's exactly what I'm talking about. The Slender Man. Sorry, the Slender Man is an actual cryptid. Yeah, for sure. And the Mothman, yep. Glipclops? I didn't know about that one. Slender Man or Siren Head. Oh yeah, Siren Head's the new one, isn't it? Thanks for all you do. It's not much, but you've earned it. I know you've done many Mind Flayer videos. Could you do one on the Elder Brains and their multiplane existence? Or when if they fracture? Ooh, that is an interesting idea. I'll look into it, Josh. Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Sorry, Joseph. I meant the Slender Man. I think he'd be a great homebrew warlock patron. Heck, he actually has proxies that are basically warlocks in some stories. Really? I love it how it's like it's in development during our generations, right? Like they'll be, part of the Majestic 12. So we'll be, like, future generations will be talking about the Slender Man, and, like, we are here in its development. So we know where it's come from through social media and stuff. How much is left on the stream? An hour. A whole hour. Why did that go? All these talks of cryptids and SCPs makes me want to have an SCP tabletop game. Wait, let me write that down. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so in Palladium, if you want to play an SCP, Secure, Contained, Protect RPG, Beyond the Supernatural is perfect for that. Because you have psychic investigators, you've got, like, circus performers, you've got actual psychics, you've got null psychic people who, like, don't, nega psychics who actually suppress psychic activity by not believing in it around them. You've got, like, minor and latent psychics and master psychics. You've got actual arcanists who study, like, spell books and rituals and things like that. And you can easily put in martial artists, cybernetic enhanced super agents, and superheroes, like in the form of, like, super soldiers or experiments or mutants and things like that, and even aliens if you wanted to. And you can make a team that goes in to investigate supernatural situations and secures and contains and catalogs and stores them away somewhere. It's perfect for running that sort of campaign. Call of Cthulhu and Delta Green are also great games for running exactly that sort of campaign, and it's fantastic. Like, I love that sort of roleplay where you've got a home base, you've got resources, you've got, like, an agency. There's rules in Ninjas and Super Spies for creating super agencies and organizations like the CIA and, you know, or like the Phoenix Foundation. What was it? Was it Phoenix Foundation that Knight Rider was funded by? You know, Charlie's Angels, funded by some super billionaire somewhere. They got their own rules and regulations, like, you know, they may have unlimited hardware that you can use. What is this SCP thing? Secure, Contain, Protect. So this is like Warehouse 14, the TV show where they had a warehouse full of artifacts and stuff. What was the other one? The Secret Room or something, or the where like there was some supernatural event that happened in a room, where like there was some sort of godlike crossover, and all of the objects in that room have supernatural abilities. That was fantastic. Hey, thanks, Chris. Thanks, amigo. Hot take, the SCP Foundation is an excellent spiritual successor to Lovecraft. Have a good stream, gotta go. Yeah, exactly. Robert, thank you. Hey, AJ, brought up my campaign before in Superchats as a Lich as the Horn of Orcus. What ritual would you need to complete to summon an avatar of Orcus? Probably something like a mass murder. Anything where you're summoning a huge amount of negative energy into the prime material plane, you may summon an avatar of Orcus. Basically because Orcus would be looking in to see what's going on. Like, if you're capable of performing that sort of conversion of life to unlife, Orcus may actually look in, send an avatar in there to see if you're worthy to actually be converted to a Lich and join him at his side, and then he will totally control you. That's what Orcus does. Because Orcus is only interested in turning everything into undead, killing the entire multiverse, turning them into undead, with him being the one who's in control of all of them. And then he basically just commands them to stop, so that he's the only living thing left in the multiverse. And then eventually everything just withers away and dies, and he fades from existence, and he's the last one standing, essentially. That's Orcus's view on reality. He wants everything to stop, it to be perfectly ordered under his control, and him watch the entirety of the multiverse fade from existence over eternity. Like, just eternity of him going, I'm in control of everything. That's it. That's Orcus's view of perfection. He's very much got that Thanos sort of idea, right? Instead of like killing off half the universe, he wants to kill all of the universe. Thanks, Joseph. By the way, proxies are humans that gain superpowers from Slenderman in return for service. Basically warlocks. See the Tribe 12 for a story focused on them. Interesting. Thanks for that. Oh, whoa, that skipped forward in the chats. Hey, Don. Oh, MacGyver was the Phoenix Foundation. What was Knight Rider's one then? Oh, it was Warehouse 13. Sorry. What about a cancer that restructures your organs and keeps you alive forever? True. Who's the best god and why is it Lathander? No, I wouldn't say Lathander is the best. Moonring. So help me, I'm going to make that video and make it terrible. Order of the Broken God. Friday the 13th, the series. Yeah, Warehouse 13 was a great show. I really liked it. Because it's got so many, like, yeah, Indiana Jones. I was just going to mention that in The Lost Ark, where the Ark ends up in the government warehouse. Yeah. Warehouse 13, essentially. Hey, Matthias. The great Archaea provides for all. You found SCP weird, is that wrong? No, it is weird. It is weird. There was a great, like, cartoon, was it even animated? Where there's a guy who's sort of inside SCP because he is an SCP. He can't die. And so he gets to experience a lot of the SCP because he can't die. Well, Warehouse 13 is still there. You can go back and watch the old episodes. SCP is Cabin in the Woods from the perspective of the people working at the facility, yeah. Like, it's your first day at the SCP Foundation is an excellent, like, adventure that you can run. It's your first day. It's like, well, people generally don't last 24 hours. If you make it to 48 hours, I got like $10 on you not making it. It's like, but you're my supervisor. Yeah. Pete and Micah were a great team, yeah. Summoning things requires portals. Creating portals requires negative mass. Oh, it was Darkseid with the anti-life equation. Thank you, Mr. Reckless. The big bad guy of my campaign will be a creature locked in hell, and this Orcus ritual idea just gave me a way to bring this boss to the end of my campaign now. Ha ha ha. Yeah, excellent. Sacrifice 7 Celestials in a town worth of the devoted, yeah. That would make Orcus happy. Hey, TJ! Have I seen the... Dude, like, as soon as the new Mandalorian episode dropped, I just, like, put everything aside and started watching. I love the Mandalorian. Love it. How would I put a glitter boy in D&D? Essentially, that would be the that would be the mighty servant of Luco. Except it reflects all radiant energy. I'll just put it in there as an artifact. A glitter boy in Rifts. The glitter boy was the premium power armor before the world went to shit. Essentially, it was a laser reflective power armor suit that had a massive electromagnetic railgun, a cannon, mounted on its back, that had recoil so strong that it had to shoot laser burning pylons into the ground to anchor itself. So the pilot would like lock their feet into position, shoot the pylons into the ground to stabilize itself, bring the cannon online, and then just like it actually releases a sonic boom when this thing fires and obliterates a target a mile away. So it's super powered armor, right? That's why Rifts uses a whole new damage category to the previous game versions, apart from like Robotech. But I'll be talking about that. So, yeah. In detail. It sounds like Orcus needs depression counseling. No, he has a perfect... Like, he's got a path to exactly what he wants. He just doesn't like living things, that's all. From Orcus's point of view, he's perfectly sane. Who is the best NPC and why is it always a goblin? I would argue. The Flumps disagree. Poltergeist the Legacy. Oh. Implying you can make a bad video. I can make a bad video. Can I make a video about the Wild Men, a playable race in 2nd edition D&D? AD&D. Yeah, maybe Kiwi Comics. That's super obscure. I could, I suppose. Flag is what Knight Rider... Thanks, Ropey. Knight Rider works for the Foundation of Law and Government. Flag. Excellent. Thank you. Captain Caveman. Yeah, exactly. That would be the Wild Man. Captain Caveman. Hey, Egg Silver Radio. Key is a combination of psychic power, so internal psychic power, and also feng shui, essentially the manipulation of natural flows of energy. So ki is its own thing because it doesn't use the weave, but it's weave-like, and it's a little bit less and a little bit more than psychic power. So it's a different take on things. And to be honest, it's just a good system for handling martial art power stuff. That makes it slightly different from magic. No, Primordials didn't create the Tarask, and technically Tarasks evolved on a planet, an alien planet somewhere in the multiverse. So there's a planet of Tarasks, and there's one usually on the planet in question. Orcus is a mimetic hazard. Yeah. Guru, I can't remember the name of the tech D&D artifact that is a suit of damaged power armor. Let's see. Well, there's the apparatus of Aquilish, which is technically a power armor. There's a big giant walking machine, which is in an old AD&D product, which is run and powered by gnomes. There's Non-Dnd, of course, the massive robot that was created by the giants to kill dragons. Non-Dnd. So there are examples of big robot things in D&D, in the canon. I'm certain Mr. Rex thinks that Illustrae is the best god in D&D, but I'm convinced she's pretty cool, but she doesn't bestow her power to male clerics, so male drow are screwed no matter what. Well, I mean, Loth has other children. There are other gods in the Drow Pantheon, male gods in the Drow Pantheon. Yeah, I should probably talk about that at length at some point. The Drow Pantheon. And how the Drow became the Drow. And what phase rest energy is. And what Gricklebark is. And who's keeping the orc hordes at bay at the moment in the Forgotten Realms. And why you should pay extra special attention to steel dragons. There's a magic glitter boy in the Black Market book. I did not know that. Replaces the mini missiles and the Veritech with Techno Wizard ones. Yeah, mini missiles. I created a power armor called the Missileer that was created by the the Spyneck aliens. Because I had a crossover between the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Guide to the Multiverse, Guide to the Universe, and Rifts, where the Spyneck and the Tuba came over as DBs, and also the Deants. Just reminded me of a question. How do you create and roleplay a race of aberrations that are good? Well, Robert, you should probably check out the latest video that I produced for my Halloween special. Like, for instance, the Oblex could be seen as an aberration that could be good, depending on the minds that it absorbs. Any aberration that absorbs the mentality of other creatures that don't go insane could actually turn to good. Also, that collective ooze creature that I introduced in a recent video as well. So you should check out those videos because that's a good aberration as well. Hey, Mr. R. Mark R. You've still got an hour to go, dude. Dragon mech, yep. Gundam jokes. We call them golems, yeah, essentially. The Iron Golem of Halasta's apprentice, the Metal Mage, forgot the name. Ah. Yeah, that's right, Ian. Illustri, 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 Illustri. I always say Illustri. I don't know why. Illustri. I always put an extra vowel in there. Illustri does make male priests. Because why would a god not accept worshippers if they make him more powerful? Are the Drow linked to the Living Gate somehow? No. Clockwork creatures are pretty much robots, i.e. nimble right. Yeah, they are. And Clockwork Horrors, of course, are basically the replicators from Stargate. Is Selûne part of the Elven Pantheon? No, she's no, she's one. Like in the live stream where Ed Greenwood and Eric Boyd were talking about gods, they sort of vacillated between, if you ask them a question about gods which is too specific, like and paints them as like having a personal interest, a vested interest in something, like they're working against each other and plotting against each other, they'll say no, gods are not human like that. They're not like Greek gods. They're not like personally involved. They're more like forces of nature that clash together, and humans are at the impact zones of those two gods' interests. So where it becomes dramatic is where like humans are involved and stuff. And then on the other hand, they're talking about Jurgil's plots and machinations and how he's behind this and that. And people should pay more attention to like his involvement with the creation of Undead and stuff. And I'm like, well, which is it? Is it one or the other? Because you guys are sort of like sending out a mixed message even while you're talking about it. So I'm reluctant to give like a firm answer on the motivations of individual gods, because they contradict themselves all the time. Even the creators of these gods contradict themselves all the time. So, like, is a god in charge of a portfolio, or is the portfolio the god? Is an aspect of that portfolio a god? Right? This is the question. Yeah, it's a 2-hour stream. A 2-hour stream. With Gilligan, the captain too. Thoughts on Urpriests? Thanks, Joseph. I love their lore and have started to make an Urpriest class for 5th edition. I feel they should be charisma, not wisdom, lore-wise. Thoughts? Yeah, I agree. The wisdom of clerics comes down to not just their ability. Like, it's... Think about what wisdom does and why every single adventuring party is not run by wizards, is kind of run by clerics, is kind of beyond me, right? Because you want to hang out with the leader who knows what's going on, who's giving command instructions based on factual information in the environment. A character with a really high wisdom score as opposed to somebody with a really high charisma score. Okay, so let's look at a situation, hypothetical, where you have a leader who's got a very high charisma, but essentially they can sway people to do what they want them to do, but they don't necessarily know what's going on around them. So that's a dangerous situation. So they're actually, if somebody asks them a specific questions, they'll gaslight, they'll divert, they'll tell deliberate untruths in order to get them and control them to do what they want them to do. So it's all very personal, based on their motivations and stuff, not necessarily to the betterment of that group, and they can lead them into a pile of shit. A cleric with a very high wisdom score is a leader that sees everything going on around them, because wisdom is your ability to observe the environment around you. It's directly related to your perception ability. So, and also, you know, like your discernment of what other people are doing and stuff. So, and also your resistance to bullshit, your resistance to illusion comes down to a wisdom saving throw as well. It's like, is that true? So, in a leadership situation, you're going to naturally turn to the person with the highest wisdom score in the group. So, when it comes down to like an priest, Are they really in touch with reality? No, not really. They're quite deluded, right? They're drawing their power from a disbelief in the gods, a rejection of the gods as anything other than aliens, superpowered aliens that should not control anything about us. So really, it should be charisma, right? I agree with you. What would be the strongest god currently? I don't know. Whichever one is most active in your campaign is probably the best answer. No, Stanchgate, go right ahead. Do you think a Coyote could become a player character? I would say you'd have to have a very specific campaign where the D&D theme of that campaign is very heavily invested in Aberrations and the Far Realm and stuff. You couldn't have a Coyote player character in anything other than a campaign which is very much centered around there being an aberration walking around. Because Coyote, even in their containment suits, will corrupt reality around them. So if they're with an adventuring party and sleep in the same area with them, somebody's going to wake up with an extra eyeball, I'm telling you. And that's sort of like that nobody's going to be comfortable being anywhere near a Coyote. They are from a different reality. You say up, they say sideways. Like, you're just not going to meet eye to eye. So any conversation you have with a Coyote is not going to meet up on reality. They don't see reality in the same way you do. So everyone is eventually going to reach a point where they are in conflict with the Coyote, because the Coyote will say, it's this way. And you say, no, it's that way. And they will not agree. So I'm not saying no, I'm saying not in a general D&D game. You think Jurgle was a spellweaver deity and that is all NDA'd according to Ed Greenwood? Yeah, he says NDA when he doesn't want to answer a question. Hey AJ, I watch you and Mr. X does D&D. What? What are you saying, Don? Thanks, Gage. Could one corrupt a god by corrupting their worshippers and playing on their prejudices to the point where they adopt their worshippers' beliefs? Yeah, they could. Yeah. Gods are very much shaped by what their worshippers believe. That's the whole point. No politics, please, Taekwon. I've heard that AO set the rule in Forgotten Realms as to gods requiring followers to stay as gods and is himself exempt from that rule and dissuades people from worshipping him. Yeah, he doesn't respond to people worshipping him. The worshippers being needed for gods has always really been a part of what they are. Like, if you listen to Ed and Eric talking about gods, they want gods to be more detached, more esoteric, not personalized. Like, all of the gods that you see manifesting would be avatars or aspects of that god that is there because the believers manifest something, like manifest them. But they're not people. They're not personalities per se. So my version of gods is constantly fluxing. Could you rephrase that, Don? I don't know what you're talking about. I gave my players a conspiracy board covered in red connective lines for my campaign yesterday. Excellent. You know, there's a company that actually produces that wool in bulk just for that purpose. You can actually buy that conspiracy wool. Bunny ears, thank you. What if I raise my coyote with love and compassion? They'll be just fine. How do I think the Masquerade and Lich meet? I don't think they do. Who was my first Rifts character? Mine was Starboy. Actually, who was my first Rift character? I think it was... Who was my first Rift character? Oh, I don't remember. It was so long ago. I think he was just like some dude with some Plastic Man armor and a las pistol. You know, like a Rifts, a Triax pistol. That was it. Have you ever read Liber Chaotica or Loathsome Ratman and their Vilekin? It's Warhammer fantasy focused, but it gives some really interesting in-world perspectives from the old world. No, I haven't read that. How do I think the Masquerade and the Lich met? I don't know if they did. No politics, but we just talk about AUKUS politics. Yeah, well, yeah. I wouldn't even call AUKUS political. I watch YouTube. Oh, okay, Don. Thanks. Yeah, I just didn't understand if you're asking me a question about like Mr. X or not. He talks about D&D, and I talk about D&D. He talks about video games, or he used to. He doesn't so much anymore. I generally don't talk about video games. Even in Bane Rain. Yeah. Well, as I said, Ian, if people ask me questions about stuff, then I'm going to answer those questions. If they're asking me questions about D&D, I'm going to answer questions about D&D. It's not just D&D November, and I have been talking a lot about Palladium and Warhammer and stuff like that. See, Robert says, when the Lady of Pain killed Aoskar, did his aspects die as well, or are they still alive? That's up to you, isn't it? Like, if you want to kill a god permanently, that's your campaign's decision. But they're not going to do it permanently in D&D, technically. Gods are really hard to kill. The Lady of Pain would kill whatever's manifesting anywhere near the city of Sigil. But generally speaking, they can't even get into Sigil. Sigil's like outside of the multiverse that's connected to gods. You're sitting on the dock of the bay in Waterdeep. Thanks, Entertain JD. Hey, Will Stocks. I'm perfectly fine with running D&D without Spelljammer. You can just run it as Planescape, so you can head there with portals. In fact, when you think about it, if you got portals, you don't really need space travel. The portals can just go where you need to go. You use divination magic to find a different location in the multiverse, and then you astrally project, and you arrive there through a color pool or something like that, or you travel there through the ethereal plane or or limbo or something like that. One of the interconnecting planes of existence. You could even travel there through the Feywild or the Shadowfell. Because those are mirror universes. And when you arrive, you create a portal that links back to your original location and travel through the multiverse that way. You don't even need, like in Stargate, you don't need seed ships which travel somewhere and drop off portals. You can just travel there astrally or whatever, magically, and create the portals when you get there. That's what the Batraki did. The elves tried to create super portals that linked different locations to one portal network, and that ended in absolute disaster. Well, that's a cop-out, AJ. Well, I'm saying, Malthazar, that there is no answer for it. Like, you're looking for a concrete answer, and I'm saying it doesn't exist. And also, I'm not telling people how to play the games. I'm saying, like, if you want that to be in your game, then do it that way. Bane Rain, no. Obox is never going to get his shit back. He's been knocked down in power too much. So much of his essence is now the actual abyss. And he's not connected to it anymore. Hey AJ, how would a level 20 D&D wizard fare and be seen in the Warhammer 40k universe? Well, he'd be another cultist, I suppose. He'd be a cult leader. He'd very quickly be taken over by chaos powers, I'm sure. Because he's just not prepared. Do I prefer plane hopping or spell jamming? Plane hopping. Could an immortal from Mystara enter the city of Sigil? Yes. Why do clerics and druids use wisdom for magic? Paladins and sorcerers use charisma. Because of game mechanics. Now you're thinking with portals. So yeah, clerics and druids are aware of their environment, looking for signs and portents in the world around them, looking for shifts in nature, paying attention to the minutiae around them. You know, think about religious people seeing God's works in everything that they have going on around them and attributing everything to the work of gods, right? Think about druids and paying attention to little details about nature, any subtle changes in the environment. Wizards are going to be tuned into that. So wisdom. Paladins and sorcerers are very focused on themselves and their beliefs and their motivations and their drives and their passions. So charisma is about them exerting their influence on the world around them. So that's why. Wasn't the whole point of the phlogiston that you can't magically teleport through it? Yeah, when you're in it. I mean, but gates obviously travel between the worlds. So gateways avoid that. So that means that gates obviously travel through outer planes of existence, right? Puddle jumper that travels through portals, yeah. Small spelljammer. Yeah, why not? Thanks, the Great Scholar. Why do we think we haven't gotten higher level Modrons for 5th edition? Good question. That's probably something which is NDA'd. Yeah, good question. What are Modrons up to, really? What's Primus up to? Has anybody ever played a cleric of Primus? Primus as a god. Why is Primus not a god? Hey DeWall, thank you. In your opinion, how would Star Wars and the New Republic Jedi respond to portal opening into the D&D universe? Okay, so first of all, Jedi are essentially space wizards. Right. So they would open up to a world which has still got a connection to the Force, but the Force in this case would be the weave. And the will of the Force is very much manifested in Mystra. Like, so they'd be like able to talk to the Force, possibly. Their deep meditations would be divination magic and clairvoyance, you know. So, yeah. You can translate all of their Force abilities directly into spells. There's spells for all of that. So for them, it would be opening up to a galaxy far, far away. Hey, would you hello AJ. What would you recommend for someone looking for a superhero tabletop system? I know D&D is very adaptable, but so is stealing good concepts from other games. Yeah. Okay. Well, like if you compare Mutants and Masterminds and Palladium, for instance, I did a video comparing the two, and I came out to the conclusion that Mutants and Masterminds is probably a better game because it's you've got a much more variable power level in the game, so you can run really super powerful uber games. That's weird. Why was there a dropout in the stats there? That's odd. Whereas Palladium's Heroes Unlimited is very much a bounded accuracy game, where there's a set limit on the ability of superpowers and stuff like that. So it's not super powerful. Maybe Primus would be a warlock patron instead. I like that idea. A lawful warlock. Yeah. What was I talking about? Superpowers. So, I like the structure of Heroes Unlimited because the power categories and the way that you select your powers and things like that is very much like feats for D&D 5th edition. So you'd have a class which would be mutant or experiment or psychic or something like that, or alien, and then your superpowers would be feat selections, essentially. Like a feat selection that allows you to push your strength attribute or something like that beyond 20. So like with a maximum of 30 or something like that. Like within reason. Or you could say it's a feat that gives your strength certain supernatural powers, certain supernatural abilities which bypass the normal sort of limitations. You got to be really careful in 5th edition in that though, because everything is based on your attributes. So if you give a human the strength of 30 and just have it apply to everything, their attack bonuses and stuff are going to be stupid. So you say, okay, their strength is 16, but for the purpose of lifting and carrying weights, it's quadrupled. So their normal stats and stuff apply to their strength score, like it's a normal sort of humanoid strength score. But when it comes to the application of it as physical force, it's magnified hugely. Same thing with speed and things like that. Lysander, ooh, controversial question. Do you have a D&D class or prestige or archetype that you hate? Like, you just think is a terrible in concept and execution? I don't think that Bard song magic has ever really been well described or investigated. I think people just take it as a given and don't really investigate it overly much. I'd like there to be more sort of philosophical thought behind bardic magic and spell singing and stuff like that. Just my hot take. Other than that, nah, not really. I mean, there's lots of specific prestige classes and stuff from 3.5 that were just kind of really, really specific and stupid, like, you know, Knight of the Green Crystal or whatever. Like, Red Flame Wizard. Can you play a good Lich in a campaign? Again, if you want to play a good Lich in your campaign, go for it. Anything is possible in Dungeons & Dragons. Stop asking me questions about what you want to do in your games. I don't care. Do it. Like, if you want to play that, do it. Homebrew your campaign worlds. Nobody's stopping you. It's not up to me to whether you make a good Lich character or not. So if I wanted to make a Jedi, they would worship Mystra? Not necessarily. They'd probably be aware of Mystra really carefully, like really quickly. They'd realise that the Force is quite different in this campaign world. From their perspective, right? Magic would be operating as the Force. They would see the weave as the Force, and they would be like, I trust the weave, you know? The weave is guiding me. So they're religious in regards to that. So it's almost like they're Bacob worshippers, you could say. To quote Ed Greenwood on Mistra, I am the one true spell. Yeah, exactly. Primus would tell you why he's not a god, but he signed an NDA. Yeah. Eric, isn't Primus dead? He was killed in an older module. Yeah. Nah, he's still around, obviously. How could there be Modrons without Primus? How could there be Modrons without Primus? Primus has to exist because Mechanus exists. In order to kill Primus, you would have to kill Mechanus. So Metafeat's not available to just anyone? No. Thanks, Melfazar. I have a Primus Warlock that campaign hops. His goal is to affect time through the butterfly effect. I roll the dice on what level he is when he arrives. The higher his level, the more useless he is. Interesting. That's a good take. And Diablo necromancers were good. Look, Eric Boyd put it really well when he was talking about that when you gave player characters the ability to animate skeletons, they quickly turned it into a non-evil act as far as they were concerned, right? Because if the player characters are able to raise a skeleton and also be of a good alignment, then it implies that raising skeletons up from the dead can't be an evil act if they're doing it. But he said, if it actually affects the being that was that skeleton in a negative way, in any way, like they're in the afterlife, their bones, their remains, their physical remains have been raised up, infused with negative energy. If it pings and affects them in any way, it automatically is an evil act, even if the person doing it is not aware that what they've done has harmed that soul, that person. If you raise up a zombie of Aunt Matilda's family is going to be fucking horrified seeing her walking around and getting sledged up by adventurers somewhere. It's an evil act to desecrate a corpse. It's an evil act to do that. Doesn't matter what the motivations of the necromancer are, or whoever's doing the ritual to raise the dead. You're desecrating a dead body. It's going to harm somebody. Harming somebody against their will is an evil act. So you may have the best of intentions becoming a lich, but unless you are a lich that somehow uses radiant positive energy to raise yourself up from the dead, you are a drain on the natural world that is drawing on things. Like, even living beings have to kill things in order to survive. Like, there's an entropy in the multiverse that causes you to require an intake of energy to exist, to function. You're burning fuel to get there. Like, even if you're a vegan, you're still killing plants to live. And undead do that directly through drawing in negative energy. In order to sustain the motive force of a lich that doesn't have any biological processes, they have to supplement it even harder, even more. They have to turn it into their muscular force and stuff without intervening biological processes. So they drain really hard on the world around them, to the point where everything is dying around a lich. Like, the longer you are around a lich, the more decrepit you will become, the more just drained by the lich's presence. It's a psychological and physical drain on everything around them. The lich may be like, yay, I get to live forever and do good works because I can do things now because I don't have to worry about dying naturally. Meanwhile, everyone is dropping like flies around them. They're harangued and tired and depressed to the point where they're like grouchy and angry and do acts of evil because they just can't deal with things. The lich is draining everyone. It's a sump of negative power. So the intention of the Lich may be good, but the actual act of being a Lich is evil. Zombie auntie makes a pie. Yeah. In the group I played in, no two people had the same alignment. Yeah, it's perfectly fine to play an evil-aligned character that's walking around in a good society and getting by. Like, they don't necessarily have to do evil things. They could have an evil alignment and be like, you know, their motivations for doing things could be like selfish, self-centered. But like a lawful evil character is still obeying the law, and if the laws of the land are essentially good and prevent them from doing horrible things to people, they'll obey the laws, you know. Bale Norns are the case in point of like where a culture supports that drain on them, but like nature, the forest itself is providing that extra energy to the Bale Norns. It's a necessary sacrifice as far as they're concerned for a specific purpose. But take them away from that and put them in like a urban setting or something like that, they're just liches, dude. Like, they're just undead. And Bale Norns don't live a comfortable existence. They're not enjoying their time as undead. It's a sacrifice that they're doing for a purpose, for a reason. Their intentions are good, but what they are is evil. Like, it's against the natural order of things. If you leave it up to me, I would say that Bale Norns would probably be killed by the majority of other elves, but it's that slavish devotion they have to their traditions. Like, they'll defend even unconscionable things that their ancestors have done in the past because they defend their family and their honor and stuff like that. So elves have got an alien mindset. Would humans come up with something like the Bale Norns? Probably not. Look at the ring wraiths of Lord of the Rings, for instance. That's your human version of a Bale Norn. Fight between 100 Hand and a Tarrasque. That'd be an epic fight. I don't know. Anyway, if anybody's got any other non-D&D questions, now would be the time to ask them. We've got 20 minutes left. Yeah, Emperor of Man in Warhammer 40k consumes 1,000 telepaths a day alive on the Golden Throne, so he's kind of a Lich King. He absolutely is, yeah. He uses that psychic power. He basically co-opts their psychic power to keep the beacon going so that spatial navigation is possible through a hyperspace, which is essentially hellish, a corrupted astral medium. How do I think Aberrant compares to Mutants, Masterminds, and Heroes Unlimited? I don't know. I don't have much experience with Aberrant to form an opinion on that. Will I do any videos on Vampire Kingdoms from Rifts? Absolutely. That's one of my absolutely favourite innovations of Rifts. I just love the whole... Like, that whole book was really well put together. The concept behind it is solid. It was fantastic. It's like if you took the movie Dusk Till Dawn, right, and then added in post-apocalyptic magic and advanced it a hundred years or so. That's Rift's Vampire Earth. The Astronomicon, the beacon and the Immaterium, that's right. Favourite small-time tabletop? Toon, Paranoia, probably pretty good. I mean, Paranoia would be seen as a small-time tabletop these days. Toon was always really good. Car Wars, by Steve Jackson games. A lot of these Steve Jackson games were really good. What are some other good ones? There's a lot of good OSR games, of course. Yeah, there's lots of parallels, Nanya, for sure. If I could be any animal, what would I be? A dolphin. I have no idea what you're talking about, Kirk. Malfazar! What you got brewing? Started some Christmas mead the other day, and I'm about to bottle some cherry apple wine soon. State of the Faerun video soon. Yeah, State of the Faerun videos coming soon. I'm going to be working on that this month as well. It's going to take me like weeks to do that video. I've got 2 batches of pretty strong mead in my wardrobe right now. I've got one out on the table, which is just refining. It's supposed to have stopped brewing. I added some extra honey in there and added an agent to stop the yeast, but the yeast have carried on. Like, it's bubbling away over there. So I'm like, oh shit. It's just going to be really, really strong. So I can't bottle it yet because it's still bubbling, unfortunately. So I've got 3 batches of mead working. Your favourite Rifts book is Non-Dnd? Also your favourite nation? Yeah. The Emperor of Mankind is essentially evil. Yeah. I mean, it's Warhammer 40k, dude. It's Warhammer 40k. Don't talk to me about goodness in Warhammer 40k. Are you crazy? The universe is at war. There is only war. You're talking about a xenophobic, in the extreme, human super empire ruled over by a dead emperor, oppressed by a massive ecclesiarchy which dominates half the surface of the planet of the Earth. Everything is dystopian. Yes, it's evil. Good grief. Listen to the quotes from Warhammer 40k. Happiness is the delusion of the weak. Yeah, Phase World is really good. Like, it's Rift's Earth taken to the logical extreme. Like, it explores that idea of a portal network world, a world which is a nexus of cosmic power. Could we get a Dreamlands or Arkham video for Call of Cthulhu? Yeah, I'll probably be talking about like Call of Cthulhu in general as an introduction for people who have never really heard of Call of Cthulhu or know what it's about, right? So I know a lot of Call of Cthulhu devotees are looking for my usual like delving in depth into the lore of specific things, but this month I don't have a lot of time to cover different things. So really I wanted just to produce videos that say, look, this is this company that produces this game. This is what this game is about. These are the basic mechanics. This is what it feels like to play this game. This, so like, are you interested in Call of Cthulhu? Here's the basics. Like, so when you sit down and are at a table of like ready to play Call of Cthulhu, if you watch that video, you know what it's about. You know what to expect, and you've got a primer for picking up the books and making a character and playing the game. That sort of thing. So if I don't have that level of knowledge of that game, I'm probably not going to make a video about it. So Palladium is an obvious one for me because I know Palladium like the back of my hand. I've written Palladium material, so like I know the system and stuff. There's a couple of bits of like more modern Rifts lore for products because I stopped sort of buying and playing Rifts for a while ago. What the scariest thing to happen to you, AJ? Life, man. Life has got its ups and downs. It's a very personal question. An open mind is like a fortress with its gates unbarred and unguarded. Yeah. Abandoned reason, no only war. Yeah, see, like, for those of you who are have been with my channel for a long time, you may notice that sometimes when somebody comments, like, first comment on a D&D video, I will respond with a quote from Warhammer 40k. Would you ever do lore videos on the world of Conan? Yeah, maybe. I do have, like, Kobold Press's campaign setting somewhere on my bookshelf. But again, that's Midgard is D&D as well. Do I have any spooky things I've experienced? Nah, not really. You had an infection ruin your last batch, sadly. Oh, damn. I'm still looking through the Tome of Beasts 2, so I don't know if I've got a favourite there. Also, I'm really terrible at like putting down a favourite monster. People ask me that all the time, like, what's your favourite dragon, and what's your favourite this? I'm like, I don't know. It's like saying, what's your favourite page in an encyclopedia? The index? Yeah, they're still making books for Rifts. Play a game of Paranoia for stream. Yeah, maybe. These live streams can get pretty scary. Yeah, sometimes. Ruthlessness is the kindness of the wise. Yeah. Bring the flamer. The heavy flamer. Yeah. I love Warhammer 40k. I love it because it's fucked up and it's fun. Do I like sci-fi? I love sci-fi. I don't think there's a sci-fi movie that I haven't watched. Whoa! Nick! Holy hell, thank you. Dude, just for that, I'm going to extend this live stream. I was just about to wrap up. Innocence proves nothing. Yeah, that's a big boy donation. Thank you very much. That's a great start for my month. Thank you. Robert E. Howard died at 34. He was writing down Conan in the 50s. Yeah, Robert E. Howard. Interesting character, man. Like, the way that it was described how he wrote Conan was almost like a mental illness, like an obsession. Like, Conan would actually kill him unless he wrote the stories. So he's your classic, like, tortured creative. Make a lore video on Nick, please. Yeah, Nick. What video do you want me to make, dude? Name it. Howard and Lovecraft were homies. What's my favourite sci-fi outside of Warhammer 40k? Star Trek, Star Wars, Dune. Howard was like Hemingway, but with balls. Get Hemingway on the wrong side of a rifle and say that to him when he's had a few scotches. For the Emperor and Sanguinus, death, death. Yeah, June. Herbert, like, oh, no love for Farscape. No, not really. You're asking me like sci-fi. I'm immediately thinking books, right? Books and just Farscape was fun, but no. Stargate, yeah, Stargate's also really good. Star Trek Deep Space Nine was good. I liked Star Trek Voyager and Enterprise. I actually really like the Enterprise series. And of course, the latest Star Trek is fantastic. What the frell? Yeah, they were weird back in those days. In the 1920s, 1930s. People were weird. Weird. You think they're weird now with the internet? No, they were weird before the internet. The Tau aren't space commies? Well, I suppose they are a little bit. For the greater good, yeah. Weird fiction. Yeah, so like I love Frank Herbert's vision, right? His vision for human evolution was just fantastic. Yeah, the world of Conan has got Lovecraftian elements to it. Can I talk about what Kobold Press is and where it came from? Yeah, I can talk about that. Also, for those of you who are regular watchers of my community tab on my channel, absolutely pay attention to my community tab. I'm way more active on there than other YouTubers generally. So that's one of the best places to catch, like, when I'm having the next live stream and stuff like that. Or you can remind me to tell you when the next live stream is. Although typically they're always like on the weekend. Also, I post links and resources on there that I find interesting and useful. So stuff that I use or find really fascinating, I post links to it there as resources for you. The latest one that I posted there was DMG's reboot from his channel and his latest new product. And hopefully sometime this month, probably in a couple of weeks or so, I'm going to be having an interview with DMG about his stage floor design for D&D terrain for live streaming and stuff. Like if you're playing online and you want to put your camera in a way that the players can see the action going on without the limitations of a top-down view that you have on Roll20 and stuff like that. Like Roll20 has got its limitations. We make the assumption that maps always have to be a top-down view, when in actual fact with a webcam you can set it up like a stage show, right? Like a stage, like you're looking at a theatre. So yeah, that's definitely something to pay attention to, and an interesting innovation in the crafting world. And remember, I started off this channel as a crafting channel, so I have a strong interest in crafting. Which reminds me, I'm in the process still of producing Piercer and Roper. Here's Piercer, getting a coat of paint. I've yet to put some highlights and stuff. This is just like base colors and a dark wash on him, but he's going to have flowers and stuff added to his shirt. But that's Piercer for you with his donut. Roper is also in progress. He's even more unfinished at the moment, but he's just got like a dark wash. He looks very zombie-like at the moment with just that dark wash, but his eye is really going to pop, because I'll be using a technique using epoxy resin to make a lens effect on his eye that makes it look very realistic. So yeah, there's Roper. So they're in progress, slowly but surely. Yeah, there's lots of different virtual tabletops, and I posted one which was people like to promote like the virtual tabletop with the most features and things like that, but like I posted one which is just the most accessible, because anyone with a mobile device can use it, and it's just got basic stuff that you can use at your table. Thanks to Wall. My favourite sci-fi was the book version of Crest and Banner of the Stars. The author wrote the same way Howard did. Blue-haired space elf showed up, told him her story, and he was like, "What? Really? Cool." What's the other books? Honor Harrington and oh yeah, there's lots of great classic science fiction. So yeah, I will have a look at Foundry VTT. First contact on Reddit. Oh. What's your favourite novel mechanic from a non-D&D RPG? Ooh, that's a good question, Matthew. Dodge in Palladium. The ability to dodge attacks is really nice. And parry. And roll with punchfall or impact. Just like the Palladium gets a lot of stick for combat taking a long time, but think of it like bullet time in the Matrix, right? You slow down the action, and when you're playing the game, you like the ability that you have to do the nuance of combat moves and stuff is great. Am I excited about the Dune Netflix show? Yes. All right, it's time for me to go, everybody. I said that I would extend it a little bit, and it's 1 minute past, and my room is really hot. I have to turn all my fans off and stuff when I'm doing this, otherwise you'll have a constant whoosh in your ear. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about the mega damage rules, John. Clark Ashton Smith, yeah, he's a bit of a... I've read one of his stories, he's a bit of a knockoff of Lovecraft. Later, New Zealand man. Yes, my name is AJ, I'm from New Zealand, and this has been a live stream. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day. Go out and vote.